Hello, everybody. I'm Tim Hughes. I'm the co-founder of Digital Leadership Associates. I'm also the author of the book, Social Selling, Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers. With me today, I've got Simona Pop, who I've just got to invite to the broadcast, and she should be appearing with us. Side by side, here we come, and here she is.
Yay!
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. The power of the internet, isn't it?
At last.
If you reset a few things, it all comes together, doesn't it? It's a bit like life.
Always, always.
Yeah. So, Simona, it's so fantastic to have you. You presented at a conference that I presented at, and I was really blown away with what you were doing, and I had to have you on my Tim Talk shows because you're doing some amazing things. Before we get into the detail of it, why don't you just explain who you are, what you do, and just so people can get an idea of who you are?
Of course.
Yeah.
So I handle partnerships and communication, funnily enough, for a tech startup working in the finance and procurement area of business.
Okay.
And the main thing for me is essentially making procurement and finance not boring, which is always a challenge.
Because one of the things we talked about was that B2B is boring.
Yes.
And really you're trying to find ways of making it less boring.
That's right.
And you've done some interesting things. So talk us through about how you're using social and the successes that you've been having with that.
So the main thing that when I first started in my current role, it was very much, I was aware that it's a very boring and arid space that I would be functioning in. So for the past, 20, 30 years, things have pretty much been the same. It's the realm of white papers and
in the supply chain and procurement space, it is very much that, yes.
It's tumbleweeds and really not in a good Western style, fashion. So what I did was, okay, let's find out where these guys hang out, because at the end of the day, certainly in the past few years, even if people aren't necessarily active on social, they're certainly there listening.
Right.
I have met so many, C-level execs who get their news and get the pulse of what is happening from social media.
Okay.
So
you're saying that there are C-level people on social media?
Yes.
They may not be tweeting, but they're listening. Is that the?
Definitely.
Okay.
It's more than 50% or actually 60% of people on social media aren't active.
Right.
So just because they're not posting GIFs with Happy Friday on them, which I personally enjoy, but just because they're not doing that does not mean they're not there, and it doesn't mean that they're not listening or know what's going on, who's the latest, who's the greatest, who's doing cool things, and so on. So for me, it was very much a conscious effort of, look, we can definitely communicate with these guys via social.
So do you use the telephone? Of course, you've got to talk to people on the telephone because we've just had a telephone conversation to get the technology to work. But in terms of your normal mode of operation, is it usually on social?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
My steps, because we were very much going to focus on social selling steps. For me, the phone call is pretty much number 4, number 5 down the list.
Okay.
I'll be honest. I drew from my own experience of getting calls when I'm in the middle of something and I'm not necessarily, let's say, open to new information. Sometimes when I get a call out of the blue, I have no idea who this person is. I have no idea who the company is, what the services might be. And it can catch you off guard, and it can, as a result, put you on a back foot as a salesperson. So for me, I would say start on LinkedIn the way I do it.
Yeah.
My steps.
Well, go through the way that you do it.
So my steps are LinkedIn, move to Twitter, move to DM on Twitter,
right?
Move to email, then call.
Okay.
And then go from there.
And is that you going from LinkedIn to Twitter to get more an idea, a rounded view of the person, or is it that you're finding Twitter is just an easier way to communicate with people?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
I think where you can start on LinkedIn, because let's face it, that's where people, present their achievements. Yeah. That's where you can see the new projects they're working for, on where you can see, awards they've won. So the conversation, the icebreaker is there on LinkedIn. What you get with Twitter is almost a boost into those very first stages of a relationship.
Okay.
Because Twitter is not as formal as LinkedIn, although LinkedIn doesn't necessarily have to be in, three-piece suit, but it's less formal and people let their guard down a little bit more.
Okay, yes.
Because you've got 140 characters, you can really get to the point.
Yes.
If there's anything that you want to really get to the core of, or illustrate through 10 emojis and a GIF, you can. And it's fine and it's acceptable. And I think that moves you to a new kind of playing field, a new way of dealing with or interacting with people. So
to go down to a final point, so you go from LinkedIn to Twitter, and when you mean you're going to Twitter, in effect, you're looking at the person's Twitter stream, and you're probably going and either liking what they're doing or retweeting or just so they go and they recognize it's a signal that you're there. You're not necessarily interacting. And then you actually, when you say you go to DM, to direct mail, that's when you have some sort of conversation with them. So how would you make that step? Yeah, we can all go and retweet Tim Hughes' stuff, but how do you make that step from retweeting to actually having the DM? What is it that you do to do that?
So this, for me, very much comes from identifying the people that you want to sell to and making sure that this is something that you need to start with. Make sure that they are the right audience.
So you're getting very careful in terms of your target market, because you're selling a procurement product. So there's a particular type of organization that that you're probably going to go for, and then a particular type of persona of person, probably job title. Okay.
And the reason why I do that is because when you look at social selling, it's a lot slower. Okay. Right. So you have to.
I'm going to contradict you in a moment, because you told me once it was faster, but I'm going to come back to that.
Okay. So the reason why I'm saying that is because you're never going to have the same old school effect of here's a database, go through 200 calls.
Yeah.
You're never going to be able to do that. Yep. And you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, it's awful. So with choosing your right client or potential client will save you a lot of wasted breath, wasted characters, wasted communication. When you identify the right type of company and the right role, it's a lot easier, because what you're going to find in their Twitter feed or in their LinkedIn feed are things that you can draw from.
Yes, some people would call this account-based marketing, which is where you're being very fine. But there's, in my experience, I've tried throwing mud at the wall and hoping it'll stick, and it has a place. But I've always got better results by actually going, let's find that account and doing that research. And actually, you save time by doing that.
You do.
Yeah,
you definitely do. And you conserve energy. For me, being a startup, it's vital for me to make sure that it's, my resources are put to very good use.
Yes.
So
because you don't have masses of budget or whatever, and to be honest, I actually don't think a lot of people have masses of budgets, especially in the B2B space. It's the B2C, where Samsung say, they're gonna, it's like Apple Music. How much does it cost just to run some concerts? Millions of pounds. Whereas in the B2B space, we generally don't have a lot of budgets.
Exactly.
So you're looking at making sure you're squeezing those resources as much as you can.
That's right. You have to be clever about it. You have to be smart about it. And that's how you're going to stand out. And that's how you're going to get results.
Okay. So we'll come back to standing out in a moment. So you go, so you start retweeting, and then what do you do? How do you get that conversation to move to DM? How do you get the right to do that?
So what I've done before is where I've, let's say, noticed a piece of content that was shared and was talked about by X C-level. And then commenting on it or liking it or giving, let's say, an article that I might have written over on Medium about it. Or something that somebody else has written, and posing that as either another argument for or an argument against that particular point. And that's when you go, do you know what? This is such a great conversation. I would love to continue this over coffee.
Right.
Now,
and that's about getting that engagement, and I mean, it all sounds a bit of a cliche that we're adding value or whatever, but really what we're doing, it's a natural thing that if we were at a networking event and we were drinking tea and we'd gone through how far have we traveled or whatever, and then what do you do? Oh, that's interesting. I read an article about that, and it would be a natural thing that you would do as part of a conversation. It's not like social is an unnatural thing. It's actually, we've always been doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that what you? Yes, okay. And then because you're interesting and that, you've earned the right to move to a direct mail, a DM conversation.
Yes, essentially, it's almost like that moment again, taking a networking event where you exchange business cards.
Yes.
Where we've established that, yes, actually, I'm interested in you and you're interested in me here. Let's continue the conversation. It is exactly that. It's translating it to a social medium. That's it. Okay.
Now, you said earlier on just now that social was slower. Though you can give me an example, can't you, where actually social has been faster?
Yes. The reason why I said it's slower, it's because it's a lot more, the relationship that you get is a lot more valuable.
Right.
So the time and attention you invest in it is a little bit more than you would, here's the number for this CPO.
Okay.
Call, try to get through the gatekeepers, try to do this, try to do that. So from the perspective of let's establish a relationship and we agreed that we would like to be in business together, that's where, it can be a little bit slower. But the reason why it's faster is it gets you that valuable connection a lot quicker.
And from your example, and I agree with this, because, even though it's only one example, it's a sample of one. I actually believe that if it can get you higher in the account.
Yes.
So as salespeople, we have this lifelong problem, which is that we can't get high enough in the account. We're always being beaten. You need to be selling at C-level. It's like, well, we can't get in at C-level because there's so many people that are blocking us. And really, we're just one of, once you actually do get to a PA, they usually say you're one of 200 calls that we've had today. And it's like, okay, well, why am I different? But you actually had an example where it was actually really, really quickly. Now, it actually didn't turn into business, but as we all know, quite often, qualifying out is actually just as important as qualifying in.
That's right.
If we qualify out, we know we're then not going to spend, we're not spending a lot of time on something that we're not going to win.
Exactly. And for me, this particular example that you and I chatted about was, and this happened within 20 minutes.
Okay. So explain what happened. You're obviously not going to mention the name of the company. Just call it a hamburger chain.
Yes. So what happened was I knew exactly who I wanted to get to. It was the CEO. It was the founder, hands down. Why bother going through the other roles? So what I did was I knew that they were opening about 3 more locations.
Right.
They were definitely on a growth trajectory. So I thought this is the time. So what I did, actually, I skipped my own step here.
Ooh.
I did not go through LinkedIn. I went straight to Twitter.
Okay.
And it was basically, I commented on a tweet about they were doing free burgers for the launch. So I tweeted on that and said, well, you've got all these burgers. How about I bring you a coffee and a cake? So that, and because it was instant, it was as soon as that tweet went out that I replied, the CEO just went, oh, how very interesting. Yes. Well, sometimes, cake does go after burgers and so on. And then I just automatically, we had a few more, humorous exchanges live.
Banter, yeah.
And then I just went straight to DM and said, look, this is who I am. I'm a startup. My business is to make your life easier and have you focused on burgers and cake all day long. I'll do the boring stuff. You just focus on that. So, and he came back to me straight away and said, look, the thing is, we are a little bit too big at this stage to work with a startup, but come back to me in a couple of years and let's see how we can work together. Okay. And to me, again, like you say, qualified, done. And that was 20 minutes.
And so from a social perspective, you got in there, you had a conversation and you qualified out.
This is it.
But always with, the power of the network is you don't know where that person is going to be in 2 years' time anyway. They could be running McDonald's for the whole of Europe. And they may go, who's that coffee and cake woman? I need to get her.
I really fancy some cake. Yeah. It's true. But this is how people, I think you open them up to really telling you the situation and really telling you the truth.
Yes.
As opposed to hassling them and trying to get in and speak to them when they really don't have 5 minutes. Because this is something that you're kind of jumping on them and saying, give me time, give me time, give me time. But they might not have time right there, right then. And
I think, I get a lot of people contacting me direct. I actually had someone contact me on email, and then they wrote this long piece about how much they thought that they'd read my things and I built this personal branding, etc., etc. And then they went straight for it was just a straight unsolicited email, and I ended up writing back and saying, considering you actually have obviously read a lot about my stuff, why did you decide to take this approach? And they just said they wanted it from speed. But it had irritated me because I was like, I don't need this right now. I'm trying to do something. And maybe it would have been right, but if they come through, I'll just delete it.
Don't mess with Tim.
It's one of the, but I kind of feel sometimes that we have to take our if it irritates us, then it must be irritating other execs. Exactly. And it's not about there must be another way. There is another way, and then you just kind of prove that, and you actually can shorten the cycle. One of the things I'm just looking at our notes about when we talked, and you were saying that you're a great believer that selling is a human to human thing, and that social selling is a human to human thing, and I'm a great believer that people buy people. And there's nothing, I love getting on the phone and being a bit cheeky and that, and I think most people who are good at telesales kind of get that. but there's no reason that personality can't go out on social as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think, look, people like you were saying, people by people, and people like having conversations with people who are interesting, who are engaging, who do something different, who, you know, draw you in. And one of the things that I have found, you know, being in sales for so long, and particularly now moving into sales and procurement, it is pretty much like it's frozen in time. It is so vintage from the perspective of how things are done and how people act and how people still do things the same way as they've been doing them for 10, 20 years. Nobody stands out anymore.
No.
Much of a muchness. Everybody's kind of the same with maybe a little price difference in the middle.
So how are you standing out, and what are you doing to stand out? Apart from the fact that you're not white, male, and over 40, like a lot of the procurement people seem to be. Well, by the way, I'm white, male, and I'm over 50, so I kind of sit into the demographic. So.
Well, that's definitely one. But I think you have to change the conversation as well.
Right.
Because if I went in, considering that I'm not, you know, white male in a gray suit, but I still talk the talk of, you know, jargon and boring, let's do 60 pages of white paper, it'll still be the same. Because at the end of the day, the people coming into contact with your information are still going to have the same experience. So my proposition is to completely change how that information is delivered.
Right.
Get rid of the jargon. Let's focus on what this product, service, whatever it is, what it will do for you. Right. How will it make your life better? And without, you know, tech spec here, and this is how much it is, and here's your 5-year contract, sign here, see you later. It has to be something that is interesting, that is a partnership as opposed to just a transaction, a buyer-supplier transaction. And it has to be something that continues post that contract sale.
Right.
It has to be, it literally is like a relationship. Think about it, think of it as taking people home to meet your parents for Christmas. Right.
That's an interesting point, because I've got a blog coming out on that on Monday.
Oh, there you go.
So yes, I think that one of the things that has changed in sales, and this is like sales process, is that because I grew up in the time when we had to have closing plans.
Yep.
You know, you need to get your closing plan in by 5 p.m. on Friday, Tim. And it's like, and it was like, you know, what we do is we've got all these steps that we're going to put together and the resources and that. We're going to close the deal and we're going to walk away. And if you did that to me, I wouldn't accept that as a customer.
No.
But why would I expect to do that to my customers?
Exactly.
I expect something better than that, which is why I would expect to give something better to my customers.
That's right. I mean,
I know. Sorry, it's a thing that I don't understand why we treat. But so what? How do you do it differently then? What is it that you're doing?
I think for me, it's making sure that you win everybody who's going to have some sort of interaction with, again, the service, whatever it may be. You want to be that person or that service that people want to be around, right? And again, it comes from that human to human, that H to H that I enjoy so much. But that doesn't stop with, the decision makers and the guys who hold the purse strings, because you have a whole pool of people who are going to be the ones using your product day in, day out. They need to like you. And how do they like you? They like you because you're on Twitter, you're on Instagram. You have a personality to your brand. You engage with them when they use when they use my software. I want them to have a great experience. I want the training that I do to actually be fun, gamified, engage them just as they would expect in their day-to-day lives when Kevin Bacon does his little dance as Britney Spears. Why don't we have the same kind of level? Not that Kevin Bacon is that entertaining, but it's having this this focus on actually being interesting to the people who are going to use you. At work. Why does it stop when we go to work? It doesn't need to. It shouldn't.
And so from a sales perspective, you see by doing this, you will get extra sales.
Yes.
Right.
Hands down, net promoter score, people who engage with you will be there to say, whenever somebody else comes in and says, no, actually, let's get rid of this, let's use something else. Everybody who is involved in using it day-to-day will say, no, we like these guys. And that's because, when you have that relationship, you have that relationship. You're not just a gray, cold bit of software product, whatever you may be, that people can just go, well, let's just throw that out.
So today, I think we've learned about that B2B doesn't need to be boring.
No, and it shouldn't be. And I'm doing my best to absolutely make sure that in 3 years' time, 2 years' time, a year's time, let's say, the standard will be completely different.
Fantastic. So we're kind of about out of time. So Simona, where can people find you? Where is it that to give people your Twitter handle and your coordinates? And
so Twitter handle is just @sim_pop. You will see me. I'm wearing a crown in my profile picture. Why not? And then obviously on LinkedIn, just Simona Pop. I am not the Romanian fencer, by the way, because ever since she's won the Olympics, people go, this is what you also do this? This is amazing. So no, it's not me, but I'm definitely going to win Olympic gold in the B2B less boring.
Okay, fantastic. Any other coordinates or they're the places?
You can also drop me an email anytime, simona@instasupply.com. And yeah, hopefully see you online.
Okay, good. Thanks, Simona. Thanks for your help.
Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you. Bye.